On February 11th, at the San Francisco Labor Council meeting, delegates debated and discussed the issue of freedom and defense of Julian Assange, a journalist and whistleblower. Here are some of the delegates who supported the defense of Julian Assange.
Julie Fisher, UFCW5. I'd like to offer my support for Julian Assange. I think it's horrible that he's been stuck in this embassy, Ecuador facility this whole time, and the U.S. and probably the UK have not done anything to get him out of there. Instead, they become the part of the problem. No journalist, nobody that produces facts and reveals information that we all should know from the beginning should be treated like this. He deserves a day in court, and he deserves due process, and now he deserves it now.
Hi, Martha, SEIU 10-1. It's my understanding the charges have been dropped, and I think the resolution...
Never any charges, actually.
Yeah, okay. Yeah.
He was investigated.
Yeah. I think the resolution is good. I think it could have been better. That's all. It was a discussion that needed to be had, and we go forward by having discussions and having votes.
Why do you think it was important, the issue of Julian Assange?
Oh, because, journalists are being laid off. Journalists are being persecuted the world over. That's the backdrop. It's, I think, already 90 so far this year. I heard on Amy Goodman. It's a high number that have been shot and killed. WikiLeaks provides an important function. You may not agree with everything that's released and to whom it is released, but it's an important function that we need to respect, and I respect Julian Assange, and I feel for him, and I'm worried he will be charged with espionage. We have to remember the Rosenbergs. We have to remember a lot of things. Like you said, Allende in Chile. We can't just assume justice will lead us in the right direction. We can't assume justice will be achieved.
Frank Martin del Campo Lacla. I think this is just a really straightforward issue. It's somebody is telling us what's going on, and our government and other governments don't want to know what's going on, don't want us to know what they're doing, right? And so it seems pretty straightforward to me, and while I respect the views of others, I did not feel there was a compelling reason why. We should not just recognize this for what it is. We got somebody in jeopardy, somebody who's a journalist, somebody who's fighting for the rights of all, and we just do the traditional union stuff. You support them. When somebody's giving us information that we need to have, you support them. And that's why I was here. I'm glad that the resolution got put forward, and at the very minimum, we had a good exchange, and everyone stood our ground on why we needed to pass a resolution from the floor.
I'm Lisa Milos. I'm a rank and file member of UPTI, University Professional and Technical Employees of CWA. I support Julian Assange because basically he publishes from WikiLeaks, and thanks to WikiLeaks, we have been able to have access to very important information without which the majority of the world would not have known. Information that has been stuck in black boxes somewhere for many years. For example, a lot of the CIA involvement during the 70s, it was opened up, like 25 years later, under executive privilege, and so there really shouldn't be any kind of executive privilege. The government should not be able to act in the dark. They should be able to act openly. And thanks to Julian Assange, we've been able to get a lot of information regarding war crimes that are being committed, regarding surveillance of foreign governments that our government has been conducting, regarding anti-democratic behavior within the DNC, which many people might think that that's bad to show those things, but in reality it's good because it makes us become better as a society and makes us demand more democracy and become more responsible, make better informed choices. The other reason why I think we really need to support Julian Assange is because, for example, what WikiLeaks released in 2008 regarding the manual by the U.S. Army manual that where they do it's a war manual where they use economic terrorism. Okay, that was published by WikiLeaks in 2008 and is very, very pertinent today with what's happening in Venezuela, because it's basically exposing the level of economic terrorism that the United States has been doing against Venezuela during all these years. And things like that, the reason why they're attacking Julian Assange is precisely because the media, the mainstream media, is not doing their job. And the reason they're not doing their job is because they're corporate owned. So in reality, if we really want to be able to have access to information, we better support Julian Assange.
Well, Roger Scott, a delegate from AFD Local 2121 and co-chair of the Social and Economic Justice Committee.
Julian Assange.
Okay, well, I was disappointed that the resolution that we wanted didn't pass. However, we had the opportunity for a compromise that I think we should have gone along with, in adding espionage, with leaving for whistleblowing activities and adding espionage.
I mean, there are issues raised about he's a rapist.
Well, I think I'm less concerned about prosecution for that bogus charge than charging him with espionage. So I think it was a tactical error of us not to include that at the end, and I tried to, but we ran out of time. But it's still forward. It's just not as broad as it should be.
And do you think there should be more of a discussion in the labor movement about the issue?
Well, I think it's important to progressive people and labor and the communities that are always part of a broad-based coalition. I think it's a very important issue, and I think labor should be concerned about it and should be supporting Julian Assange.
Why do they want to put him away?
Oh, why does the government want? Because he's a heroic journalist telling the truth about things that our government would like to cover up, in my humble judgment.
Richard Stone, APWU, janitor, local, APWU number 2. Mm-hmm. Yes.
And you introduced or supported a resolution for Julian Assange. Why don't you talk about why you did that and why it's important to the labor movement?
Well, I think it's really important to the to the labor movement when you consider the notion of an injury to one being an injury to all, and I think that that there are some certain social justice issues that really you permeate the core of our ability to actually effectively communicate with all people, and that's including our adversaries when we need to. And I think that it's really important that the message gets out to everyone that this is something that that must be recognized. This is not an issue. This is a point. This is not an issue. This is a process that needs to be recognized. Everyone wants to try to attack the integrity of his character. There are things that do need to be definitely questioned, but on the same notion, you set all that aside. There are this is a process that we're talking about that needs that needs to be respected, and I know that sounds like a bunch of generalities, but the thing is, I'm talking about it as as recognizing process.